Hello, my name is Jane Jennings and I'm a member of the Chelmsford District Scout Active Support Team. I hope you're all enjoying your virtual camp, and I'm here to show you how to make cheese straws if you fancy having a go at those. So I'll now start doing those. First of all, you need to wash your hands thoroughly, but before we do that, I'm just going to get my cameraman to zoom in onto the recipe so that if you want to pause it or take a photo of it so you can look at it after you've watched the video, you can. Right, so first of all, need to wash your hands. I'm sure you all know how to do that. I'm not going to sing happy birthday twice doing it though, like I know you all are these days. We have to wash our hands to make sure there's no germs on our hands to get in the food so we don't get poorly tummies. Right, the first thing you need to do is turn on the oven to either 190 degrees centigrade fan or 200 degrees centigrade if it's not fan, or gas mark 6. First thing you need to do, I haven't got a bowl out the cupboard. You need a large bowl, weigh out 115 grams or 4 ounces of flour. The recipe is in both, so that's why I'm going to give you both, and I must admit I still cook in ounces because I have the ounce weights for my scales. So just pop that into the bowl. Then you need just a pinch of salt. So pour a little out into your hand and then just pick up with your thumb and forefingers and sprinkle in, and then just pop the rest into the sink. If you're going to use the curry powder or dry mustard to help bring the flavour of the cheese out, that's when you pop that into the recipe. And you only need half a teaspoonful. I've got some measuring spoons, but you can always use an ordinary teaspoon and judge about half. The next thing we need is 55 grams or 2 ounces of butter or margarine. Which we weigh out on the scales again. And then just pop into the bowl. And this is when you have to, this is like the reason why you needed to have your hands nice and clean as well, because you have to get your hands in and use this sort of motion with your thumb and your fingers to rub the margarine or butter into your flour mixture. And you have to keep doing that for a little while until it looks like fine breadcrumbs. I've never done a video like this before, so I'm hoping I'm doing okay. I did do a Zoom cooking lesson with my grandchildren making these last week though, so I have had a little bit of practice. So that's the sort of consistency you're looking for. I'll just wash my hands off again. And then the next thing to do is to weigh out either 75 grams or 3 ounces of cheddar cheese, which we then need to grate. Doesn't have to be exact, mine's just slightly under, so that will be fine. And the reason I haven't done it in advance is so that I can show you all the bits that you need to do. I've forgotten to get the grater out the cupboard, but here we are. You might need help from a grown-up to do this. I'm not sure, but as long as you're careful and mind you don't get your fingers, because we don't want any accidents making these. When it's done, you just pop it into the bowl and then get a metal spoon to just give it a quick stir around to mix it all in. Then you need to get an egg and break that into a cup. It's always good to break eggs into a cup just to make sure they're alright, because sometimes they can go off, and then you just need to whisk it with a fork. You have to be a bit careful doing this bit. You make a little bit of a well in the middle of your mixture and pour about half the egg in, but you have to be careful because, as you saw, that comes out in a little bit of a gloop, for want of a better description. And then you mix it round with your metal spoon. And then you have to get your hands in it to try and bring it together into a dough. You might need both hands. And that's what your dough should look like when it's ready to roll out. So I'm just going to wash my hands quickly again. And push things back a bit. So you need to lightly dust the surface with some flour so that the dough doesn't stick. I'm using a rolling pin, but if you haven't got one in your house, if you've got an empty bottle of some description, you can always, glass bottle, you can always use that for a rolling pin instead. Try and shape it into a rough sort of rectangle shape. Take a little bit of the flour on your hands and just pop some on the top and then just roll it. It needs to be about 1/2 centimetre in thickness. And then you need to use just a little table knife like you'd use at the dinner table to cut it. It should roughly be 1 centimetre wide for each one and 7.5 centimetres long, but it doesn't have to be exact. So then you just carefully cut them. You could always use the bottle or rolling pin as a guide if you find that easier than trying to do it freehand. here's my tin that I've got lined ready to use. Just a baking sheet with some baking paper on. You then pick them up and you gently twist them. One end you twist away from yourself and the other end you twist towards yourself, so you get like a twist in the dough, and then you just pop it on the baking sheet. If you find that's too tricky, you can always just put them on as they are. That won't be a problem. But if you can twist them, they do look quite posh. This one's a bit of a funny shape, so I'll just trim a little bit off the edge and do that. And then the last few little tiny bit, just roll it into a ball and pop down, because that will still taste nice even though it's not a straw. Then with some of the egg that you had left over, you just brush them with the egg, because that will help them go a nice golden colour in the oven. You can pop them in the oven just like that, or I'm just going to sprinkle a few cumin seeds on mine, because that's how we like to have them in this household. Or you could use some poppy seeds or sesame seeds if you have them, but you might just want to have them plain. Then you, oops, sorry, cameraman's taking a close-up of the seeds. Then you just pop them in the oven. You might need, well, in fact, I'd recommend that you're supervised by an adult to pop them in the oven, and they need about 10 to 15 minutes. So we're going to pause the video now and we'll get back to you when they're cooked. Hello, I'm back again. Now the cheese straws have been in the oven. You must use some oven gloves to get them out, because we don't want you burning your hands. And as I say, please make sure you're being supervised by an adult, because we don't want any accidents. And that's the finished cheese straws. You just need to wait for them to cool down, and then you can eat them. They are best eaten the day you make them. You can still eat them the day after, but they are definitely nicer eaten the day you make them. I hope you enjoy making them, and even more importantly, I hope you enjoy eating them. And while I did forget to say that while they're in the oven, you can do the washing up. So perhaps you might be allowed to cook another day. Anyway, have fun. Bye for now.